the geek speak that you, some of you embrace, some of you are just like noobs. What does that mean? Well, Google it, N00BS. For us to go and just discuss effective practices, past techniques, success stories, stuff we've seen on the interwebs that maybe is a little risque and we want to talk about it. And basically what we're doing is we're helping nurture media community, and I'll tell you why in a bit. I'll feed you baby birds, don't worry. So, afterwards, we have an awesome presentation today. I'm looking forward to hearing Jason speak because I'm a huge gamer, online and offline. Haven't really delved into board games, but that's neither. Trouble was the board game that I used to play when I was a kid. But Jason's going to talk about gamification. It's really, really cool right now. He's got some really cool stuff. I kind of peeked at his slideshow, and it's really, really, it's geeky, and I'm a geek, so we got a little, I squeed. I had to run away and be like, thank you to our sponsors this month. The good folks at FusedLogic.tv. We got Walter and Evan from Fused Logic. Evan's in the back right there. He's streaming us live out there online. So people are like, oh man, I got a meeting, or oh man, I have to pretend I'm working for 3 hours, but I'm going to watch the social media breakfast. So hi there, people out in the interwebs, if you're making comments. Evan's moderating the chat there, and yeah, that's good. He's like, oh man, Steve's so funny, and like 6 other comments are like, Steven's so loud. Why is he so energetic in the mornings? What is he on? Life. I'm high on life. Life is my drug. The good folks at Elm Cafe, who likes the coffee? Woo! There's like 3, there's decaf, there's like 2 other different kinds other than decaf. There's delicious, tasty muffins. They kind of brought juice, I know, right? They brought their A game, so I hope that, thank you, Elm Cafe, and someone on Twitter can give them a shout out for me, please and thanks. Done. This awesome folks at CBC, they're great. They provided us this community space for a good chunk of our social media breakfast. I think we've only done 2 off-site, and that's only because of other people wanting this awesome community space. So thank you again to the CBC. You guys are awesome to us. You spoil us. I really love, yeah. Do, 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 do. That's my CBC theme. And our good food sponsors this month, the ladies at Donovan Creative. So if we could get one of the ladies to come up and be like, what's Donovan all about? Or I can come back to you and give you the mic and you can just stand up. Whatever you guys want, because you're paying for the breakfast. I pretty much am working for you. Elaine has requested the mic to be delivered to her. Well, what the lady wants, the lady gets. So here's Elaine from Donovan Creative, and she's going to say a few words.
Hi guys, we're excited to sponsor this special event actually because we're excited to learn about gamification, totally new to, I'm sure, a lot of people here. I know it's new to us. Donovan, we're a marketing and branding agency here in Edmonton, one of the best, if not the best, I'd like to say. So again, happy to be here and enjoy the food.
Thank you very much. It adds credibility every time you like go down 2 or 3 octaves than you normally talk. When you're like, I'm the best, if not the best at what I do. I'm not the best, but I'm one of the best MCs in town. Ask your mother. Boom. Anyways, see, I tread that line. The Social Media Breakfast Planning Committee, we're all here in full force and happy to put this event on every month. So we have a variety of people on here. I think the only one is Brent here. Brent is kind of a big deal. He's like our Charlie almost. Like he'll like talk to us via email or via Skype, but I never really see his face. He's just shrouded in mystery. He's like, good job, guys. I'm like, good job, Charlie. He's like, what? I'm like, nothing. And I just like walk away. I'm an angel. Well, I have been working out. Anywho, so myself, Hedgehog on Twitter. There's Jackie Fraser or Savage Tyner. She's right here. We have Morgan right here. We have Brent, who's waving from his secret headquarters. And we have Kylie, who's right there. So this is us. This is what we do. We put this little party on every month, and we're glad that you guys could come. So who here is on Twitter? Show of hands. Okay. Now who here is not on Twitter? Show of hands. That's awesome. every time we have a breakfast, we have someone who's just kind of dipping their toes into the Twitter pool or kind of wanting to splish splash around in social media. So if you don't follow us on Twitter, please do. We are SMBYEG. And also feel free to follow the fine folk at SMBYYC at SMBYYC. We drop sweet tweets. We like talking to peeps. We like making friends on and offline. So please follow us on the Twitter. And as you saw, Donovan has provided us with lovely nourishment, help nourish our bodies so that Jason can nourish our minds. So if you or someone you know is interested in sponsoring a breakfast, it's approximately about $200. What we'll do is we'll drop sweet tweets about you guys and how awesome you are. I'll actually go down 2 octaves when talking about you, so I'll be like, thanks to so-and-so for sponsoring the breakfast. They're great and they know it. Not that creepy, though. I won't be that creepy. So let us know. Drop us a tweet on SMBYEG. Talk to myself or Morgan at the end of the breakfast, and we'll hook you up for April and beyond. So let us know. And if you or someone you want to know wants to fill our minds just with nourishment, talk to Jackie or tweet us at SMBYEG. We're always looking for speakers. We have some for the next few months, but sometimes people are like, I got a thing. That's what they say. They just send us an email being like, I got a thing. And we're like, all right, well, let's reschedule. So if you got a thing and your thing is speaking in front of people and filling their minds with nourishment and dropping knowledge bombs, then let us know and we'll be happy to provide you with a venue to do so. So the next social media breakfast will be Friday, April 27th at 8:30 in this very space right here, speaker to be determined. Regrettably, I will be away because I help organize and shamelessly promote a giant nerd party in Calgary called the Calgary Comic and Entertainment Expo. Woo is right. So I will be there just running my geeky head off, being like, here's your latte, Mr. Patrick Stewart, and the rest of the cast of The Next Generation, or hey, Robert Englund, who played Freddy Krueger in the Nightmare on Elm Street series. Here's your green tea latte, and then they'll like swat it out of my hands and ask for it like double hot, and I'll be like, I love my job. And then also too, I event in Calgary, but I wanted to show you guys how much I do really love Edmonton. I'm going to pass this around. This is a picture that I drew for my grandmother. Because when I used to live in Calgary, I used to come up and visit her all the time, and I used to get really excited. Like Edmonton was like a trip to Disneyland for me. So it says, I really like to go to Edmonton. So I'm actually petitioning Stephen Mandel to change Edmonton to Edmonton so that I don't look as stupid as I am. And then there's like hearts around a rainbow, and the rainbow is very brilliantly covered. So this is actually one of the things I found while going through my papers. I also found a treasure trove of teenage turmoil, which is basically like song lyrics that I used to write about like girls that I liked, but actually liked my twin brother, who was a fraternal twin, so he looked nothing like me. But I'm like, why do you like him? He's my twin. So stay tuned for that blog. It might go viral, but yeah. So if you want to look at that, feel free to look at that afterwards. I could pass it around too. Do you want to look at it up close? Anybody? No? Okay, you can just look at it afterwards. And Social Media Breakfast Calgary, if you guys are ever in town and you want to check out their event, we actually have the organizers here from Social Media Breakfast Calgary. So they sell out really fast. But I'm sure if you asked them really nicely, they'd probably squeeze you in the back door, even if they were sold out, if you guys came all the way to Edmonton. So second last Friday of every month, they have it at tons of different venues around Calgary. They have really great speakers. They had Kyle Schufelt, gold medalist, actually backflip onto the stage and do a presentation. That's what I heard. It was a rumor. Don't quote me on that. But let's give a welcome out to the Social Media Breakfast SMBYYC committee, and they're here in full force as well, too. So give them a hand. We have Donna McTaggart, or Donna McT. She's in the back there. We have Matt Chitt over there. Oh, they're all kind of in full. They're actually mingling, too. So we got Kevin Hayes, who's right by Chet, who also waved, friendly like. We have Catherine, who was right there, sitting by Mr. AJ Prock. And then we have Mike Spear, who's like, oh, yeah, there he is right there. I was going to be like, he's like the Charlie as well. He barely comes, but. They got some really cool events. I went once and it was at Melrose Cafe and Bar, and they actually had like hot breakfast, like little sandwich thingies. I'm like, I want to be that when we grow up. Actually serve warm breakfast. So keep supporting us, and one day our breakfast might be warmed. And if you want your breakfast warmed, I will actually like cup it in my hands and warm it up myself. Because I'm red hot. No, Walter's like, no, thank you. I'll pass. Were they were they warm? Awesome, sweet. We're we're making it in this crazy world. And they wanted me to actually raise awareness of this awesome event that is at Mount Royal University, my old alma mater, go Cougars. Bridging the Gap, brought to you by the good folks at MRU Shift. They have some really great speakers, and this is why I wanted to kind of point this out. Peter Shankman, kind of a big deal. Chris Brogan is the closing keynote, also kind of a big deal. And other speakers like Alex Samuel, Julian Smith. There's panel discussions. There's lunch. That's what sold me. I'm like, is there food? They're like, yes. I'm like, awesome. So yeah, for more information, go to mtroyal.ca/MRU Shift. It's Thursday. I was going to say Tuesday. Those T days always confusing me. Thursday, May 10th at 8:45 till 3 p.m. So yeah, I'm going to check it out. I might come down. Maybe we'll do a road trip. We could road trip and just prank them all like, Edmonton rules. And they're like, don't you love Edmonton? And I'll be like, damn it. And then there's going to be like, I love Calgary. And they'll be like, I'm like, I drew a picture. They're like. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our awesome speaker for today. So Jason Suriano, is it Suriano? Suriano, take two. Jason Suriano is the co-founder and president of Rocket Fuel Games. Rocket Fuel Games, we're going to learn all about them, but they did this awesome game called Seek Your Own Proof that actually Discovery picked up, and it's a really sweet game. They're local folks. They do really awesome things. Some of the awards that they won is the CNMA Most Promising New Company, the Tech Venture Grand Prize winner, and the Children's Technology Review Award recipient. So not only are they making stuff that's fun and awesome, but you're also learning how to do it. So I remember learning games back in the day, like The Learning Company, which is like Reader Rabbit. Did anybody play Reader Rabbit when they were kids? Awesome, us three guys. And you're like, four guys. There was a little we're proud of it. And this guy's like, yeah, I used to play. I used to write Company, and Reader Rabbit would pick out the carrot. Like mine carrots. It's a good game. You guys should definitely check it out. He has more than 10 years experience in online, mobile, and real-world games, interactive marketing, and corporate websites. So the proof's in the pudding. And he's the former Alberta ICT executive director and volunteered as the co-chair in communications for ACE, or the Advertising Club of Edmonton. So get your quarters ready. Save your one-ups. Get ready to pwn some noobs. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to present our speaker, Mr. Jason Suriano.
Morning. Well, first off, just thanks for having me out this morning. This is a little odd. I don't usually talk with a mic that often. I'm half Italian, so I yell most of the time. But anyway, so what I wanted to do this morning is just walk you through a few of the projects and things that we've done over time. Touch base on gamification, just sort of our views on what we think gamification is, and yeah, and then at the end, I'm going to try something that I've never tried before in a presentation. We'll see. It's either going to work really well or it's going to completely blow up in my face. So we'll see how it goes. Just a few little notes on the company. Company website's at rocketfuelgames.ca. You can like us on Facebook. I still don't really know what happens if you do that, but you can. our Twitter handles, so my Twitter handle, company Twitter handle, and hashtag SMBYG, of course, and hashtag Rocket Fuel Games. So I'll just start with a quick overview. So what I'm going to do today is go through just a quick background on the studio, a few stats related to games, and just talk about things like social games, educational games, and marketing and communications, because those are the three specific areas that that the company focuses in. So we haven't really done too many entertainment focused games. Our view is that our games in those categories should be entertaining by default. So that's kind of how we work. So just a quick background on the studio. So as was mentioned before, we won a few awards. Primarily, we focus on online, mobile, and real-world games. And I'll talk a bit about that with the Discovery project and sort of the convergence of those three pieces. That's really what caught Discovery's attention. So some of our partners include Discovery, ATCO, AMA, Science Alberta Foundation, DDB, City of Edmonton. Yeah, again, we've been around for a long time. Again, we produce educational games and sims for people of all ages. We've done a lot of unique marketing campaigns. I'll talk about those as well. And really, the whole thing with what we do is it has to be fun. So rule number one in the studio is any project we do has to be fun. So if we have a client who's causing us problems, I automatically pull out rule number one. Are we having fun anymore? If we're not, bye. It's that simple, right? Because like it has to be fun. That's how the studio works. Okay, so just a few background stats and just some things on games. Worldwide gamers is increasing rapidly now, and this is primarily because of the mobile piece. And it's a cool thing for us because we do work in mobile, have been doing that for a couple of years, and things are getting a lot easier for us on the development side now, which is great. But as you can see, the number of gamers a decade ago has grown exponentially. The cool thing for us is I always like that one on the right because it's the North American market numbers, which shows that by 2014, that market's going to be worth $19.2 billion. That's the estimate. So yeah, we kind of like being in that space, and hopefully that happens or grows even larger. All right, gamification. How much time do we have? Okay. All right, so gamification. Okay, gamification is kind of a tough one, right? Because it's really, in the studio, I try not to use this word ever. Mostly because it's very difficult to define, and I'll show you why that is. But this is actually what we end up using for every single project that we do. We focus on things like, and this is Jane McGonigal's statement, every game has to have the following four things: a goal, rules, feedback system, and voluntary participation. That's really the key of what we're doing when we create a game. So really gamification for us is just that. It's a game. So this is the thing about gamification. It's like playing a game of lost bingo in a way. Essentially, you've got all these terms that define games, right? So, and I'm sure I've missed some. I'm sure there's some people in the audience going, okay, you've probably missed one or two here. But ultimately, this is sort of we're running the gamut of all the different types of games. Even things like serious games, which I've never really understood, because if you put the word serious and game together, I mean, it's still a game, right? So simulation's also another fun one. So I've had to sell projects into clients calling it a simulation. I can't call it a game, but then internally with our team, I call it a game because it's still a game, right? And the last one, I actually just came upon that one the other day, Game IT, which is what essentially they're using for enterprise solutions now. So essentially what ends up happening is, and this is kind of my perspective on it, I think there's people my age who are trying to sell this to the old guys who are sitting up at the top, and they have to come up with some term to sort of justify it, right? I think there's a lot behind a lot of these terms, and it's kind of cool for me because I can use some of them to, you know, I do sales for the company, right? So I can use that to sell in, but I'm just being honest, right? I mean, really, a game is a game is a game. So essentially, I just put this one slide together again. So really, again, gamification is turning something into a game. That's the bottom line. Like, that's what you're doing. Really, I mean, gamification is your loyalty program. So if you collect points somewhere, anywhere, that's a game. And again, like, the way we look at it is it's a way to increase brand awareness and affinity, right? So it's a way to play a brand. That happens a lot. So in the Discovery case, we actually created a couple of games related to their brand. So we created a Ghost Lab game that aligned to the show. So it talked about the history of paranormal activity and how that plays out over time. Again, it can incite your audience to participate. You can challenge your audience. And at times it can influence consumer behavior, but I don't know if that's really the goal, again, right? I mean, I think you're trying to just get brand awareness is really what you're trying to do here. Okay, so I'll just do a quick run through some social games. Unfortunately, we're working on 2 right now that I can't talk about, which sucks because I would like to talk about them, but I can actually just kind of walk you through how we look at social games and just some of the other ones that are out there and sort of how it's progressed. So really, this is an interesting quote that I found from the founder of Crispin Porter Bogusky, which is basically, you can't buy attention anymore. Having a huge budget doesn't mean anything in social media. The old paradigm was pay to play. But essentially what he's saying now is you have to be willing to play to play. I've read that one a few times. Kind of get it. I don't know. It does make sense though, right? I mean, in a way, this is the whole freemium or free model, right? You have to get something out there and get someone to play in order to play in the game. That's kind of the way I interpret it anyway. So just a few quick stats on social games. And again, they're often US skewed because, you know, we do a lot of work in the US, but I mean, they're pretty good stats to go off of. So if you look at it, 20% of the US population has played a social game. By the end of this year, nearly the population of Iran in the US will have played a social game. The interesting stats for us, 1 out of 5 Americans over the age of 6 has played an online social game at least once. My kid, who's 5, has already played. I don't know if that was on purpose, but he did. And the interesting thing is the big female skew on the social gaming side, right? So it's actually really cool for us because we can try some different projects and different approaches. One of the new ones that I just saw actually last week was a Pinterest game. How many people are on Pinterest? Wow, okay. Where actually they were pinning cross sections of an image across multiple accounts, and then you actually had to assemble the image by pinning it to your board. So it was pretty cool concept. Okay, this one I love. Okay, so Farmville farmers actually they outnumber real farmers by 80-1. And I like the last line, many real life farmers actually play Farmville. Why you would do that, I mean, that's like me playing a game about game design, which actually there is one. And I'm like, I could just do that or go to work. Okay, so I put this one up here because I was trying to think back to when I would have played my first social game. My first social game would have been, and I found this picture, this is actually like a console party. Way back when it was a PlayStation 2 console party that my friends organized. We had to randomly pick teams. We had a few TVs. This is well before the internet, right? So pretty involved and pretty geeky too. But I won the tournament though. We only did it once, so I still hold that over them every time. So really, I mean, the popularity and the explosion really started with Farmville and Facebook. And I have to tell you, I hate this game. Like, I hate it, right? But I totally get it on the business side, because as soon as I join, and I always join and then delete when I have to test it for a client or something we're doing, I get like 10,000, like, someone gave you some corn, someone gave you some, I'm like, okay, thanks. It's awesome. But just a quick stat about Zynga. So Zynga's the producer, and I'll show you a few Zynga games. So Zynga is valued at $90 billion now. Their conversion rate is less than 1% in Facebook. So it's about 0.4% of users actually pay for something. And they're worth $90 billion. And that's because they have some other games, though. Don't get me wrong. So Words with Friends, anybody? How many? Okay, so the interesting thing about Words with Friends is that basically this is the game following you wherever you are, right? And that's something that was one of our mottos way back in '06 with a lot of our kids stuff, and I'll show you that in Seek Your Own Proof, is that the platform doesn't matter, right? The game needs to follow you wherever you are, on whatever platform you're on, or whatever platform you want to use. That's one of the main principles. So the interesting thing here is that it hits your contact list. You can search for friends in Facebook. And then on the actual like gaming side, you can run like 10 games at a time. So I'm actually in meetings now and I'm getting pinged like, it's your turn. Right? And then I'm like, oh, I have a call, right? Draw something? Anybody? Okay, this is like sick. I mean, look at that Frodo in the middle there, right? If you Google top 20 draw something images, it's ridiculous. And the funny one was, for some reason, I forgot to grab the snapshot when someone was challenged to draw a bomb, and he actually drew Link from Zelda holding a bomb, then drew an arrow to the bomb, right? Like, holy, like, time on your hands, right? Like, I mean, it's just crazy. But again, this is another Zynga one, so they just bought, so OMG Pop basically created this game, and Zynga just bought it for 180 million, I think was the number. Okay, so games to educate. So this is really kind of where we started. And this is, I think this is the sort of the mantra that we follow on all these games, and this is really where it started, right? So the key here for us is that imagination is the source of every form of human achievement, right? So the problem with education games from our view is that they suck. Like, they're just terrible, right? And I don't understand why. So our philosophy has always been, we're going to make like high quality entertainment-based games and then trick the kids into learning something. That's the goal. And it kind of goes back to that old Carmen Sandiego thing. So this is a game that we did for Careers the Next Generation recently. It just won 2 ACE Awards of Distinction, which is pretty cool, for the client. They're a not-for-profit client, but the cool thing with this is it actually has, it's online, but it also has real-world implications. So how this works is, a kid actually selects a tile of a career that they might be interested in, trades and technology. From that career, what happens is, and the button's not active there, but it's actually tied to their Salesforce in the back end. So what happens is, if a kid says, I'm interested in this career, it tells Careers the Next Generation that this kid actually wants an internship automatically. So they get notified immediately. The second thing, and the thing that we're like super proud of, is this is actually making the client money. So what we did is we made a rate sheet for every single one of those tiles, and all of those are customizable. So basically what they're doing right now is they're going, hey, Syncrude or Suncor or whatever, we're going to layer in your logo and charge you an annual fee. And then you can see there's a game and a video. That video could be their video. So there's a whole actual like revenue generation piece, and they're not for profit. So that was part of the goal, was how do we actually allow them to make some money? Okay, this one is awesome. I'm just going to say that right now. So we're building this. Anyone Plants vs. Zombies? That's it? Okay, everyone go download Plants vs. Zombies. That's another, that's a PopCap one. But anyway, this is the whole science learning thing. So Science Alberta Foundation came to us and said the following: we need to teach kids about solar energy. That's it. We went, okay, solar energy, how do they collect it? So there's a screen before this where they actually have to place all their solar panels on the grid. Depending how well they do, it stores the solar energy. Then they have to defend their school from the oncoming vampires. If that vampire gets in the school, he disco dances. So he's basically a dance crasher. That's the concept. So again, there's huge, like if I showed you the actual like science that's in behind this, I read a paragraph of it and said, thank God I don't have to do the content on this project. Go ahead. I passed it off to our team, which, you know, they're good at it. But again, there's 12 learning objectives that are met. Client asked for 4. We added another, like all the additional, right? There's more than 12. I think there's 13 or 14. But yeah. Okay, this one we got on Kickstarter, so it's on Kickstarter right now. If anybody wants to help support it, it's thanks, man. It's a local initiative with Guru Digital Arts College, and what it is it's a first-person math mutant shooter. So the idea is that basically our main character has paranoid schizophrenia, and he sees numbers and formulas everywhere. So what we decided to do on this one is we have a local charter school that has some troubled kids. They have a hard time, really it's the teacher issue. They have a hard time teaching them math. So the idea was, why don't we just give them something they're already doing? So give them a first-person shooter style game. What happens is the game engine will slow down as you approach the mutant, and so he would be frozen right now, and a timer starts, and you can see in the right-hand corner, it's kind of hard to see, there's a formula there. You actually have to pick off the numbers in the appropriate order, and then basically shoot them. Once you shoot him, you let go, and it does that in quick real time. You get it right, he dies. If you get it wrong, he hits you. So the cool thing about this too is this is us doing the creative concept and the students building it at Guru. So they're actually doing the artwork, the build, we're just directing it and we're leading it. So we're helping them build it in partnership. So the bottom line with this one is it's on Kickstarter, but we're going to get it built anyway. Like I'm just going to find the money somewhere. I don't know where yet, but we'll figure it out. Okay, marketing and communications. Okay, this one's awesome. I use this one. I've used this quote a couple times. And this is what we do often, right? So instead of trying to recreate something new every single time, which is really difficult, we basically try to put two things together because really, like what is a Snuggie but the mutation of a blanket and a robe, right? I mean, that's really what that thing is. So in this case, it was a 2D environment, and this was back in 2006, and the thing I'm most proud of with this project for AMA is that they're still using this project. The kids call it retro now, which is awesome. We actually had an illustrator from Nintendo build this one out back in the day, but we created an actual character that transforms into an ATV, and AMA won quite a few awards for this one on the school safety patrol side. So this is really how we took, and the cool thing is in the 2D environment, the buildings actually look like the AMA's buildings. And the cool thing is when the characters actually talk to other characters or interact, they get things like perseverance points, trustworthiness points, respect points. It's all the values that the AMA adheres to. So it completely aligns with everything the AMA stands for, and it's, again, subtly just passing that info off to the kids. So this is kind of the big one, and I only have one slide on it. This is a pretty big slide deck, so I'll just kind of give you the quick rundown. So this is the one that we ended up getting investment in the company for. It was pretty big deal. And this is a concept we came up with in 2005. So we had the idea in 2005, but we really didn't know how to do it. So it took a long time. But the idea was based on the whole Carmen Sandiego thing from back in the day. Let's let kids be a secret agent and learn about science and history by traveling back in time to meet historians. That was the whole concept. And then they have to basically defeat a villain along the way. The cool thing about this project, though, is that it happens online. So there's an online component. There's a mobile component. But that mobile component is happening in the real world. So that mobile piece actually happened at 6 museum partners. And what the kids would do is they'd walk around the museum with the app, look for clues that they had to try to solve, type in the answer. Once they filled in the complete sequence in the answer, it would push the answer back online where they could then buy stuff for their avatar and their rewards. So it was crossing over all of those territories, which was pretty cool and pretty in depth. Again, it took us a long time to build this one out, but yeah, really, really fun. So this one's actually really interesting. So this is to teach teachers, parents, and caregivers about fetal alcohol syndrome without bashing them over the head with the clinical. So essentially what we decided to do here was give the actual kids or characters some personality. So each one of these characters actually tells the audience member, like the person interacting with it, what their FASD symptoms are in their language. Then the clinical stuff is all in the wiki in the background. So that was the first stage. The second stage is, you can see those 3 dots that are actually located on the character there. We're creating a choose your own adventure scenario with this game. So what would happen is you'd actually have a child at age, I think it's like 0 to 2 to start, with 3 symptoms. You can only solve 2. And then the character progresses up in age because the FASD network knows the trajectory, right? And how to help a kid at each stage to lessen the effects of fetal alcohol syndrome. But in this case, we turned it into a game. So I guess what I'm getting at is we could turn anything into a game almost at this point. This is the one we're doing with DDB. I'm allowed to show it. I can't say who the corporate client is. If you guess, you guess. That's fine. But basically what this is this is for a trade show for a pretty prominent Alberta client where kids will be playing a bison, snowboarding, hang gliding, or mountain biking. And again, the production values are really high, right? Like, we're basically trying to make this as good as a Jetpack Joyride game or any of those iPad games that are out there. So it's coming together really well. I think that the art works well, and so this one's pretty fun. Okay, so we'll just go through some tools and tips, things that we use internally. So I'll tell you what they are. That's fine. Okay, so QR codes. Okay, my statement on QR codes is this. You can slap a QR code on anything. Is anybody going to use that? The stats are actually pretty low, right? It's only about 40%. The project I'm showing in the background is one we're doing at the U of A, which is an alternate reality game in risk management. And the whole thing is it's an integrated campaign that uses web, social, and mobile. But the trick here is that essentially the QR code is part of a response mechanism. It's just a part, it's a tool like anything else. So we're saying to the end user, okay, if you want to play this game, that's cool, but we don't know what device you're using. Because the client ask here was, we need an app. And my response was, why do you need an app? And they were like, I don't know, sounds cool. I'm like, okay, that's not really a good reason, right? So then we walked through why they need to contemplate how many students on campus actually have iPhones, which they didn't know. They didn't have any stats. So our assumption was, we don't know what a student has, and we can't know. So because we don't know, we're going to integrate the QR code with a response URL that's a bit.ly that's short, and an SMS response. And then we'll test to see which one works best. Because the thing I hate the most is I don't know if anyone played or tried the Wendy's Kick for a Million QR code that was on all their cups. I mean, it didn't even load a mobile web view. So it went to their full website on my iPhone. And so I'm sitting there doing all the pinch zoom to try to get it to work. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. So there's some sensitivities and things you have to know about using QR codes than just simply slapping them on a poster. This one's really cool. So we're actually one of those ones that I can't talk about, but we're actually taking a client's user manual, training manual online and turning it into an iBook. And they're actually going to give new hires an iPad, which I'm like, wow, I should go work for them. That's pretty awesome. Not that I already have one, but yeah, but basically the whole iBooks thing, if you have a Mac, you can download iBooks Author for free, and you can actually build your own book. And it's an interactive, you can make your own interactive textbook. I'm messing around making a kid's book, and you can layer anything in. So you can layer in pictures, video, there's an HTML code if you know how to do some of that. It's pretty awesome. So you can basically turn a book into a game if you want, and it's free. We're doing 2 projects right now that involve virtual reality layers. Has anyone seen or tried this? Anyone? A few people? Okay, got a few. Okay, basically what this is this one is awesome on the marketing side because it's super, well, on our side, super easy to develop. We use a tool called Aurasma, which is pretty popular. And what Aurasma does is it creates a layer on top of a physical object. So in the case on the right, that's actually, that's my Starbucks cup. And they had an app called Cup Magic. So you create an app that uses Aurasma. You hold the app up to the cup, and the cup actually comes alive. So those characters started, you can kind of see them in the background a little bit. They actually pull forward, and depending on how I move the camera on my phone, where's my phone? So I'm essentially just holding the camera up like this. And I'm looking at it through the screen. The one on the left, it was funny because the title of that one was Packaging That's Cooler Than the Product. So if you actually look up Thundercats Aurasma on YouTube, that character actually pops, it looks like it pops out from the packaging, swings a sword, there's music, like it does the whole Thundercats intro thing, right? So it's a different way to get someone to engage in like a print piece, a poster, and it's, like I said, it's, the software's out there. Another one that we're doing too involves the use of something called Badgeville. And has anybody heard of Badgeville? Couple people? Okay. Essentially, Badgeville is a social badging system, and they use the term gamification a lot in their stuff, which is fine, because that's essentially what they're doing. So they have a the one on the bottom that I pulled is actually Beat the GMAT. So it's a way to take the GMAT test by getting awards. So the cool thing about this is if you have a client or a partner or someone who wants to do something that's very gamey, you can, and they want to reward someone, there's a badging system that's already built. So you don't have to go and build all that stuff yourself. You basically just need to work on the content, and that's really the key. So the one thing that I don't know if it was in my bio, but I have 2 arts degrees. I actually am not a programmer by trade. So my big thing with all of this stuff is that the content is the driver, right? So I don't even care what the tech is, honestly. Like we're at a point now where if you want something that's game-like, we can build it. That's not the issue. The issue is how are you going to deliver the content? That's way more important than the game mechanic. And that's the thing that I think everybody forgets. So the whole pwning noobs thing and all the like the geek stuff, right? Like, I mean, I'll be honest, I am a geek, but at the same time, I'm an arts geek. I actually come from the writing side. It was funny because I was in a cab one time and the guy says, oh, you're going to university, what are you taking? And I said, I'm taking a literature degree. And he's like, and he goes, oh, I have a literature degree. And I went, uh-oh. Okay, so this is where we're going to try something, okay? I've never done this before. I don't know if this is going to work or not, but let's try and make a game. If the content is the thing, right? So let's just try and see if we can make one of these things together, right? Because essentially this is how it works in our office, right? Someone says, it's a solar game, and then in the end it's a vampire thing, right? Okay. Here's the steps. Okay, so what is our game idea? Anyone? Someone? Something related to, and you don't have to tell me who your partner is, if it's a client or something you're working on, or, oh, we got one. Yeah. Wow, we should start on something a little harder than that. Okay. Anyway, sorry. Okay, wait. Okay, diabetes. Okay, go on. You were saying. This is totally going to blow up in my face, by the way. Anyway, okay, go ahead. Okay. Okay. Right. So is that a diabetes game or is it more of a like nutrition game? Okay. Well, it could be both, right? Could be both. Diabetes? Oh, it's like no FASD, right? Yeah. Okay, anyone else?
How about-
Well, we'll start with that one.
There we go. How about, you attack vegetables and absorb their essence like a nutritional Highlander?
Okay, you're getting ahead of me now. Okay, hold on. Boo! I like that though.
Tamara, you want a prize for that? Do you want a shake cup? Because it's nutritional? I don't know. There's a lot of goodie bags. Oh, cool.
Okay, so who's your target audience for that game? I think I know who it is, but... That's okay.
Actually, I already have one of those.
Well, damn it. We'll talk after.
Key audience would be, there's so many key audiences around that, because it could be,
Yep.
kids, because you want to teach them nutritional values, and it could be those who are borderline diabetics. It could be,
Okay, I'm going to go with kids, not
Okay.
because we do a lot of kids stuff, and here's why, okay? So if I'm diabetic, I already, like, my uncle was diabetic. He pretty much knows what he has to do already,
Yeah.
right? If you're at risk and you're older, maybe. I mean, we'd have to be pretty creative with it. It's like the math thing, but kids is always a good in, right? Because they're a little naive. They don't really know yet, right? Could be parents too, right? That's another one, because parents are concerned for their kids, but they don't know. So I think this is a good one because you have multiple audience possibilities. I would suggest the kids one anyway, but I mean, yeah, it could be anything. Okay, there you go. Highlander. Anyone else? Yeah? Okay, wait, it doesn't have to be Highlander. I'm just saying, because normally what we would do at this point is we would just brainstorm. We'd go like, okay, Highlander's one. Okay? Yeah, for sure. Right, and the cool thing about that is, I don't know if anyone's ever noticed this, but they actually have learning objectives. They're really loose, but they're at the end of the levels. So my nephew came up to me and said, did you know that there's X number of bananas in this country? And he's like 7. And I'm like, what the? Like, what did... Fruit Ninja, right? So that's a good one, right? So maybe it could be a Fruit Ninja mechanic as you're assembling your meal, right? To make it more fun, right? It's that swipe motion, okay? It's totally fruit, yeah. Oh, sorry. He said Fruit Ninja Highlander.
You could do like a Super Mario style, where instead of mushrooms for power-ups, it's all the healthy foods with different power-ups.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
I don't know, one thing immediately popped into my mind is something I actually saw in another game, which was one of the characters, his weapon was a celery stick.
Really? Do you know which one that was?
Yeah, Castle Crashers. One of the knights has a celery
That's
stick
awesome.
as a weapon, but that immediately popped into my head. Is you had something where there was a villain like the bad sugars or the too high insulin levels or whatever, you know,
Yeah.
could attack them with vegetables.
No, that's cool too. And I mean, the one thing we always get challenged with, so on the Highlander note, right? Violence, which could be okay, but if we're tying it back to the audience and the original game idea, that might be a problem. So the celery stick thing is a cool thing because we could make that work, right? It's just like the vampire thing we did. That electricity view that I showed of the guy getting zapped, we have to get rid of that because it's too violent. So he has to poof, he actually has to poof into a cloud and like evaporate. So those are actually problems that come up all the time when we're building something like this.
I could keep it really topical and go with something based on the Hunger Games.
Might get sued on that one. But yeah, no, I get, you could totally play, yeah, I gotcha. Yes, it could be arena-based, yeah. Okay, that's awesome.
I think something along the Lord of the Rings have a journey, and they're actually on this journey to actually get healthy. So at the end, they have the ring. You could replace the ring with something else, and so at the very end, they reach a healthy blood sugar level or whatever, something to that effect.
It's funny you said that, and I thought, like, it's like reverse Fable. If anybody's ever played Fable. So you start off as the super obese guy, right? And then you actually have to go in reverse to get healthy. So your pickups are all, okay, this game's awesome. I want to build this already. Okay. By the way, this is TM me now. So I'm just going to take, no, I'm just kidding. So forever, for life. That's right. No, I'm just kidding. So, okay. Okay, so I think this is the other piece too, right? I mean, what kind of game is it? It is kind of slanting that way. Could be marketing, right? So if it is for one of the prominent like diabetes associations. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to use that one though. TMU, yeah, that's right. Okay. So what kind of tech? I mean, this one. I mean, when I heard Fruit Ninja, right? Obviously, it could be iPad, iPhone, could be XBLA, so Xbox Live, right? Because has anybody played Fruit Ninja on their Xbox, like on the Kinect? Yeah. So basically, you have to cut fruit with your arms. So you're basically like they're coming across the screen, and you're going like this now. Like it's insane. So tech on this one, yeah, I mean, I would say we're slanting towards that, like iPhone development. So for us, we might use something like Corona, or we might just use the native like Apple builds. But it could be anything, right? In this case, we might want to make it like more of a web-based game, just because then, like, in terms of distribution, you could get it into schools, right? So if it is educational, then you have to contemplate the schools angle. Then you have to start thinking about things like, is it built in Flash? Is it like, how do we actually build it so it'll work in the schools? Because their computers are like 10 years old. Okay, so then the next thing we would do is we'd build a game design document, and then we're kind of off to the races. And that's all done in content. And when we do that, we start wireframing it out, but we walk through a game step by step at that point, and that's it. All right, that's my presentation.
And now we will open the floor to questions. So if you have questions, just raise your hand. I will come to you with this lovely microphone. You will ask that question, and then Jason should have an answer for you. And if he doesn't, he'll say, Google it. Oh, here's our first question, Nadine. Woo, test. I don't know. You can stand or sit or whatever.
Hi. I'm all into like doing good and charity and giving and all that jazz. So when you were talking about Careers the Next Generation making money with the game that you made for them, I really like that. But the part about how the corporations can buy like the icons and stuff kind of creep me out just a little bit. I was like, that is like subliminally telling kids that if you want to be an engineer, you've got to go work at Syncrude or something. Like, I haven't totally formed that thought, but I just wanted to know if you had any thoughts about that and like the ethical sort of implications of it.
Yeah, and I think the way that it's funny you said that, because that was one of the things that came up right out of the gate, right, when we talked about that, was having like an internal ratio there. So they had to have so many like Jim's mechanic shop from Edmonton in addition to those other ones. So they have to show like a breadth of, or there's a requirement on one that they have to show multiple. So like, because it's easy for us to go like, okay, if there's one character who's in multiple industries, that one's brought to you by all of those partners, which could be multiple videos. So it's actually built in the background like that. So they can add in as many sponsors as they want on one. So is there an ethical problem? There might be, but on my side, like that's the requirement, right? My requirement was, how do I help them sort of wean off of government funding over long term, right? So it's a bit of a problem, but I can sleep at night knowing that they're making some money. So
as long as it's not like pipe fitting brought to you by Big Tobacco, inhale that career in or something like that. So. Kevin, you had a question.
You're right, though.
That corporate gaming seems super cool for like culture and collaboration and like team building. I'm just wondering if you have any kind of case studies or stats or data or way to sell this to companies like banks or using it in a way to leverage gaming for internal culture.
Yeah, the problem on the case study side is we're making some right now, so I can't. And it's super new, right? So the Badgeville thing is pretty new. It's been around for a little while, but yeah, that's a target like market for us, right? Because we know that this is a big, like team building's a big problem. Sorry, I probably should have pulled some stats on sort of the Gen Y thing, but the Gen Y, the new influx of Gen Y workers actually like expect that you're not going to drop a massive binder in front of them. So what's the alternative, right? And then a lot of companies are like, well, we have this slideshow that we show at a conference, like our annual meetup, right? So it's going to change over time, right? It's just going to take a little bit of time, but the new workers are already demanding that companies do something different. Hi.
Hi. I imagine most people want to make a game that is close to popular culture and entertainment, but it was mentioned with the Hunger Games, they would probably get sued. But if there's so many, I don't know, fantasy books that are out there and people are creating games, do you have any stats on people getting sued or what they have to do to pass a non-sue point?
Yeah. How much time do we have for questions? I think that, okay, there was a company who I won't name that works not here, but like in Western Canada. And they, the CEO actually like brazenly stood up and said, we built this game for X client, and it not only does it work the same, it looks the same, and was actually showing the comparisons. So I'm going, okay, there's a fine line between like ballsy and stupid, right? And I don't really understand what he was doing there, but to kind of get to the point, and this is the one I always use. So our studio model is a little bit different, right? Because what we'll often do is we'll brainstorm like the Bison game, for example, right? I now own that development platform. So we use something called Corona, and we have a license to that. And so like that in the background, like when we first found that game, it was a cheetah chasing an alien. Okay, because it's just a demo. So this cheetah's chasing an alien across the screen, and it has a few mechanics. So I own that engine now, right? So if I have another client that comes to the table and wants the same mechanic as what we used with the DDB game, I can use that mechanic again, right? Because I own that. Can I use the same graphics? I could. It's really crazy. Like I probably could, but like Yeah, why would I do that, right? Like our studio model is we actually don't have any illustrators in-house. They're all in Vancouver. Like we have a studio in Vancouver that we use so that every single project looks different and every single IP that we create or thing that we create for a client is brand new. Because side-scrolling games, there's like thousands of those, right? So we kind of know internally like how to work those lines because again we dealt with Discovery and some other and it's not just Discovery, any other brands, we still do that research to figure out what's out there. So on the Hunger Games, no, can you do that? Sure, you can do spoofs on the Hunger Games too. You just kind of have to know how to credit it, and because people will know, right? So that vampire game, when we demoed it to the kids, we didn't say anything, and half of them went, "That's Plants vs Zombies." Because they understood the mechanic, but it isn't, right? Because the graphics aren't the same, the sequence isn't the same, and it's in an educational space, and I'm not trying to make money. So PopCap's not going to come after me for that one. So it's a lot of work on the operational side because you have to, like, companies who don't know this stuff will just slap a game together, right? And then you can get into trouble if they're not doing the research. Sorry, that was a really long answer.
But a damn good one, Jason. Any other questions for Jason? Behind me. A follow-up. Look at you go.
Well, you mentioned Carmen Sandiego several times. Could you like speak to that example? How is it that you say that your Discovery game is very much based on or very inspired by Carmen Sandiego, but you're obviously like getting around that?
Because it isn't, right? I mean, it's not even, there's nothing in it that would have the learning company go, that's a problem. To the point of, there was a guy who makes the Diner Dash series, and a whole bunch of other companies started making Dash games. He sued them. He lost. Because he can't trademark the word Dash. So we used to say, sorry, on the marketing side, it is, the inspiration came from Carmen Sandiego, right? But the game itself, the content, the characters, the name, everything is different. There's nothing that's the same. Like our Carmen is Frostbite, but she's not the same. It's just it's different, right? So we're giving them credit because we wanted to get it out there.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Plus, nobody knows where in the world Carmen Sandiego is, so it's not like she can see.
That would have been a way better answer.
Duh. I was offended.
Sorry, there was a question.
I know, right? I'm here every month. Be sure to except April. Be sure to tip your waitresses. Next question.
Yeah, I'll actually do, I kind of wanted to do two. I'll do a follow-up to that because I work in the game space too, and I think that for me, the thing that I've found is that the idea behind the game and the structure behind the game is never nearly as important as the execution. I mean, there's a million first-person shooter games out there where you're just a guy running around with a gun, and it's how you put that game together that makes the difference, and people don't sue very much on, your engine and it comes down to how closely did you copy it. But my question is, what would you say are your favorite instances of gamification, like that you've come across?
Yeah, well, the most recent one is an app called Zombie Run. So, I hate running. My line is always, I should only be running if it's from a bear or the cops, right? It's just, I don't get it at all, right? The one thing I've always said is if I'm going to run, someone has to trick me into running, just like the kids, right? So there's a new app out called Zombie Run where it actually puts you in a zombie apocalypse in your run. And then over your headphones, it'll say things like, you have to pick up health bonuses here, or there's a zombie horde over there, so you have to sprint this hard. And there's all this intense sort of apocalyptic music going in the background, right? So that one's pretty awesome. They did a good job with that. The funny thing, again, like I said about that question, is I almost treat everything like a game. I realized, one day I was like, I realized I'd taken 7 different routes into downtown from my house in St. Albert and timed them. I mean, I gamified that route, right? I mean, like, and now I'm like, yes, I found the winner, right? This one's way slower or faster. I hate this slower one, right? So, you know, I mean, you can do that. I mean, you're pretty much doing that without even realizing it most of the time, right? Anytime you make something a challenge or anything that's like a game, you're kind of turning it into a game. Was that deep, really?
Jason, Walter at Fuse Logic on Twitter. I have a quick question for you regarding the business side of what you do.
Yep.
What is the single most scariest thing about being in the game business that keeps you up at 4 in the morning?
Well, I have 2 kids, so they keep me up at 4 in the morning. But, well, you know what? The funny thing is it doesn't really keep me up at night, mostly because like the past experience is all on the consulting side, right? So because I have that foundation in consulting, it doesn't worry me as much. I mean, I think sure, maybe things like the question about are you going to get sued at some point, that doesn't really keep me up. It could be the fact that sometimes I have to work way too hard to sell what I do at times. When I look at it like, really? How many times can you make that same poster? And who's looking at that poster anymore, right? Because no one looks at that stuff. Like, I mean, they might, but it's got to be pretty, like we're on that edge now where it has to be pretty provocative, right? So I'm like, I go, well, do I have to sell it super hard? It's getting easier. I think that was always the worry a couple of years ago, is that we had to work pretty hard to sell like game mechanics, or like I said on that one slide, it's like it's lost bingo. I never know which client. So Atco's a good example. They're one of our clients. We have 2 projects with them. One's called a game, one's called a simulation. Because contractually, the simulation couldn't be a game. But it is a game, because that's what I'm making, right? So, but over time, I'm hoping that'll change. So does that keep me up at night? Well, not really anymore, but it did for a while. Again, these answers are way too long. That's got to be that's the double shot talking now. So.
It's funny with the whole simulation thing, because I remember when I went to Mount Royal, in one of the buildings they have a flight simulator because they have a flight training program at Mount Royal. But when you're young and, well, I'm pretty much the same person I was back in university/college, but you see these flight simulators, or you see like Microsoft Flight Simulator. And when I was a kid and I saw those games, I'm like, oh, cool, it's a flying game. And then like the adult is like, oh, no, actually, it's a flight simulator. Look, if you have a joystick and a throttle, and I'm flying this Cessna jet over Beijing, and I'm like, yeah, but it's a flying game. And they're like, no, it's a simulator. And you're like, game? Simulator? Game? So yeah, it's just all wording. Like you can't go, like you say, you can't go to ACO and be like, we're going to make you this awesome game. But we're like, we're going to make you this learning simulator about gas pipes in Slave Lake. And they're like, oh, sweet. Where do I put my quarter in? You're like, oh, I got you. Anyways, any other questions?
Sort of more of a comment, I guess. I think part of the problem is games have such a bad name, right? That you say the word game and you sort of think, oh, nerdy, pimply-faced gamer in his mom's basement playing Call of Duty until 4 in the morning, right? Yeah. And like when you talk about games to senior folks, that's the attitude that they have. So like, do you find that? Do you kind of agree with that?
Well, on the folks thing, I mean, I love that, because my dad with my first Nintendo was, why the hell are you playing this Intendo, Bintendo, whatever the hell it's called thing? And now I go, right? Woo! Right? But no, I think that is part of it, right? And it is, yeah, it's a big cultural shift, right? So it is. I know that it's my job to sell it, right? Because that's what my, as president, that's my job within the company, right? So I mean, this slide deck is only like a sample of the stuff that we have. I mean, we've done like 10 to 15 pieces for government, right? So is there anything more serious than government? I mean, I take this stuff super, super seriously, right? The fun lasts for like about the amount of time that we put that game together, right? Then after that, it's like, it's hard work because it's constantly trying to validate that. Like, and that's the difference between us and if someone stands up here from like a pure entertainment company, right? And I know a few of them because they're like, okay, well, what kind of stupid, like we were just joking one day. Has anyone played Temple Run? Right. Okay. I was saying someone needs to make Bathroom Run. We're like, I have to get through the mall as fast as I can because I ate like a really bad taco, right? But the problem is I can't build that, right? Because that's not what our company does. But I could if, like, for example, Alberta Health and Wellness says, hey, you know, we need to teach people about like food safety, right? Then I would bust out a Temple Run, right? And be like Bathroom Run, right? So these are kind of things we do, right? But again, at every stage, because we've done this so many times, I have to show the connection. Like that's my responsibility to change. And to your point, it does kind of have a waste of time rap to it, right? That's the one we always get. Why would I put Badgeville in front of my employees? Because I'm wasting their time. And I'm saying, you're not wasting their time, right? It's all about implicit learning objectives. That's what I always enforce all the time. In all these games, you're going to learn something, right? That's the main thing. And we have a track record now. When we didn't have a track record, actually that's another one for Walter, that's when it kept me up at night. Because I have no references to pull from, right? So I want to do this, but I can't. I can't show them how to do it. So then as we built more and more projects, and it was all leaps of faith with our past partners and clients, going, we've been there, we've done that, we trust you, Jason, so we're going to let you guys do it. That was kind of how we had to get over that hump. It was a lot of work.
Oh, there we go. Any other questions? Questions going once? Questions going twice? Sold. Thank you, Jason. Everybody give him a hand for Jason.
Thank you.